Welcome to AI and Automation in Action, where we show business leaders how to turn AI from a buzzword into measurable operational leverage. If you're serious about operational efficiency and responsible AI adoption, you're in the right place.
Well, hey there, Hunter. Thanks for coming back for another edition of AI and Automation in Action, where we dive in and talk through the AI and automation technologies, give some use cases and examples of how we're delivering tangible ROI around implementing automation in a business operation. So I thought today what we might do, because we've talked about some technologies in the past that may deserve a little more discussion and explanation. And so I thought we might take today's edition and go into, I've heard you mention RAG in some of the solutions that we've built for folks. And I thought it might be beneficial for everyone to understand what that means and what the purpose of it is, and how does that play into the overall automation. So with that, what can you tell us about RAG? What does that mean and why would you use it?
So RAG is Retrieval Augmented Generation. And if you would think of that as your brain. So the RAG is the context information that you are giving this AI chatbot. If you scope it to just the RAG, then it's not able to go out to other portions for its brain, its information. So when we say RAG, ultimately what that means is we are going into the brain of the chatbot and we're giving it this information. It only knows that information, so it's only able to return answers off that information. It doesn't know it because it's not in its brain. If we open up the web search functionality, that is going to, enable other things where it can go out, pull from additional resources, but that's not scoped directly to the RAG. That's opening up the chatbot or automation up to other areas then. So the RAG, again, is just where we can go in, we can fill the brain or the context with the information that is relating to your business processes or specific tools you guys may be leveraging internally. But ultimately, it's a way that we can scope the chatbot to only know a specific set of information.
And that's really key, because I know in a lot of organizations, as we're talking to them, they come back and they say, we want it to know how we do things versus, just the general business population at large. So if I'm understanding correctly, using a RAG, we can basically say, we can put it in a box and say, this is the only data we want you to use to make that interaction and that chat output. And we can specify what that looks like and what to expect out of that versus, like you say, going out and grabbing information from a website or any other source.
Exactly. And that's really the difference is going out into the web. There's kind of two features of that. So there's a web search feature, but also you can tie that in with another LLM. Like if you're leveraging OpenAI, ChatGPT, Claude, any of those other tools, you can directly integrate that with the RAG. So any information the user is querying, that can then be sent over to that external LLM that's tied in and integrated, so it can return those answers directly to the user, or depending on the automation, maybe that information that's coming back is needing to build something or whatever that may look like, if it's a coding solution but yeah, just a different way to pull that information in. And you can also scope and train those other models as well, depending on what you need it to do.
So it gives us that flexibility that we can control what library, or like you say, the brain is. Is there a scenario where you would want to use a RAG along with a web search and an LLM, or is it exclusive to one or the other, I guess is the best way to ask that?
So it's not exclusive. It's ultimately going to come down to what you are needing to accomplish, right? So if it's something that you and your team are going to use internally that's specific to your business processes, that's not something you're going to want to open up to the web or other LLMs potentially. unless those LLMs are private models that you guys have created and you're using them internally. But all of that to say, these workflows and these chatbots that we're able to create, we can fully customize it in terms of maybe one portion of the workflow is scoped to be internally when you are relating to your ticket data, right? So that's something that would stay directly within the integration, and it's scoped to always return those answers in a specific format. But then there's going to always be a user that just wants to get some context around a generic question or a service or something along those lines. So what we can do from there is we can integrate with a private LLM that is integrated already with your website. And so whenever questions are asked around your website or around the service, then it's able to pull directly from that LLM as well in that separate side of the workflow and leverage the LLM side. So kind of again, it's ultimately what you're looking to achieve, but it is definitely possible.
And I think that's one of the key concerns I hear a lot is that people want to make sure that, if they're going to give a chatbot or use an automation that gives feedback or input to their team or to their clients, they want it to be specific to their operations, at least at some level. And so I could see, it could be something like we want to be able to pull our pricing for these widgets, but we also need to have the functionality that it can go out and pull. If you're in a compliance related industry, what are the latest compliance requirements? So that as they ask questions, this component pulls from our library. This type of question pulls from an external source that's constantly updated. And so you kind of build those models, if I understand correctly, and you specify the categories and how they go to get those answers.
Exactly. And it's going to be dependent on how that user is interacting with the chatbot, and based upon what they send it, that's all configured. So if they're asking, a specific question around phone logging, like you had said, it's going to insert into a custom workflow specific to that phone logging portion. Now, if it's a generic question that can't be answered in any of the other workflows, that's when we're able to leverage that LLM or that web search to return any of the other answers that can't be answered from the external sources.
Got it. Okay. So the other question that we get a lot is if I put our data into the RAG and it's our proprietary information, and then we also tie in an LLM like ChatGPT in a private instance, is it gonna, is it gonna share our information or our proprietary information to any other source, or is it just gonna stay in our little box?
Just going to stay in your little box as long as you are truly using a private instance. So, and I just want to be clear, both sides of that needs to remain a private instance, right? So not just using maybe an open chatbot that's integrated with your private instance, that still is a security flaw. Or a private chatbot with an open chat GPT instance is still a security flaw. So keeping both of those in private instances where it's not going to be used to train other chatbots that people are creating or using or able to even return answers based on the data you've entered, where it's able to feed other people's answers. So again, just keeping everything private is best and always recommended.
Absolutely. So I can see the best use case for this. I know when people start talking about ChatGPT, the concern is about getting specificity and how it gives responses. This is a way for the organization to have more granular control over what is returned, what information it sources from, how it sources that information, and how it interacts. So that is truly, as opposed to just going out and getting ChatGPT and say, hey, we want to give everyone ChatGPT to answer our questions internally. This gives us the flexibility that now we can control where they get the answers, what type of answers, and secure the data while we're doing it.
Absolutely. And some of the actions and outcomes, I will even add to that as well. Some of the chatbots we've created doesn't natively support some of those applications. So we're able to create custom integrations since they support API access, and we can create those custom actions to happen, right? So if you're needing to return customer data, if you're needing to be able to add a customer directly from the chatbot, that's something that we can create in terms of an integration, and then we can integrate that with your tools and the chatbot and make that come to fruition.
So yeah, this starts to get exciting when you think about we can build our own library of internal processes, pricing, whatever. We can integrate through an API to our existing application so that it can talk to those. And then we can leverage, a web connector to where it goes out and scrapes the web for latest information, and also tie in an LLM. Now we got basically all avenues giving us the most robust interaction for our team or our client or whatever. So really cool technology. I appreciate you having the conversation with me this morning, helping explain, what that RAG is and why it's important. I think that's something that is, as we see this technology develop, that's going to be key for customization when it comes to control and security and getting the best outcome.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me, Shane.
Awesome. Thank you, Hunter. Looking forward to the next one.
Me too. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to AI and Automation in Action. If today's conversation sparked ideas about how AI or automation could improve your operations, we'd love to continue that discussion with you. Join us next time as we showcase another real-world implementation and break down how to deploy AI responsibly and effectively. And if you want to brainstorm with our team, email us anytime at ideas@innovativeautomations.ai. Until next time.